My name is Israel Vasquitelli, and I am the program director of the undergraduate entertainment and music business degrees at Full Sail University. And welcome to Taking Flight. Today, we have some amazing guests with some pretty phenomenal backgrounds, and they're going to talk about this platform that I would imagine anybody that's paying attention in the music industry has heard of. It is at the bleeding edge of what's happening in the industry, the intersection of technology and music, and that is Udio. So let's go ahead and see our panelists today. So we have with us today the CEO and co-founder of Udio, Andrew Sanchez. Welcome, Andrew. All right. We also have the head of product at Udio, and that is Andrew Bronstein. And hello, Andrew. How are you? Welcome.
Ian Bronstein, but thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Bronstein. I got it right the first time during rehearsals.
Thanks,
And
happy to be here.
oh, there you go. And also have a phenomenon, I would say a creative phenomenon, and that is King Wildonius, a comedian, a futurist, an artist, a filmmaker. I know I'm missing something, but we're going to learn about you and all the awesome things you do, including BBL Drizzy, which we're going to get into. And
Absolutely.
hey, how you doing? How you doing, Wildonius?
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm great.
Thank you for being with us. And last but not least, we have a super producer in the house, Grammy nominated, platinum selling. He's worked with the who's who of the music business, everyone from Travis Scott, 50 Cent, Beyonce, and on and on and on. And that is Sonny Digital. Welcome, Sonny.
What's going on? How you doing? How you doing?
All right. Thank you for being with us. So
Appreciate you.
I'm gonna go around the room. I'm gonna have everyone maybe give us a brief description of their journey in the industry. We'll keep it short, a synopsis, up until where they are now. Let's start with Andrew.
All right, thanks, Israel. Thanks for having us. It's a pleasure to be here, and hi to everybody. Great to chat. I'm Andrew Sanchez, as Israel mentioned. I'm the one of the co-founders of Udio, and yeah, the journey's been an exciting one. One of my very close friends from high school, who is a world-leading AI researcher, was really excited to start a business in this area. So last year, he put together a team of folks, and we started Udio, and it's been an incredible journey over the last year. And we've had the great pleasure not only of making a lot of great music, but making a lot of great friends with amazingly talented people like Melonius and Sunny and many others. And yeah, we also think that it's been great, and we also think that we're about this far of the way in there. There's a big world ahead. So that's me.
Very cool. Thank you so much. And Ian, you have a pretty incredible background, everything from major labels to social media, definitely disruptive technology. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, longtime musician, worked at WMG for a little bit in the past. I was at Meta and a number of startups. At Meta was great. Got to work on some innovative technologies, VR, AR, working closely with creators. And I think it was a natural progression to end up here at Udio. So we're just trying to, as Andrew said, push the limits and bring AI to music in a productive manner. So super excited to be here, and it's been a great journey.
Very cool. And King Wildonius, you are a man of many hats, to say the least. You have certainly, in some ways, touched the zeitgeist of pop culture with a viral hit that I mentioned earlier. If you don't mind telling us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so traditionally stand-up comedian. I've been making comedy songs for shoot, I don't know, maybe close to 20 years now. Had a couple viral hits on YouTube. Um, During the pandemic, I used to do a lot of audio dramas on Clubhouse and also making music on Clubhouse. And then, um, you know, the BBL Drizzy happened. Well, really it was like AI, I started diving into that. And, I was during the pandemic, I was doing a lot of screenwriting. So when AI first hit, like with Midjourney and ChatGPT and all these different tools, I was making like AI trailers of like my scripts, and then Udio came around and BBL Drizzy happened, and the rest is history. So I've now been doing like mostly AI music for the last year or so. But yeah, that's kind of my story and a very condensed side of it, version of it.
Thank you, and definitely condensed. I think we could probably spend. I mean, I think we could spend an hour. I know we could spend an hour with each of you. We don't have
Right.
the time, but certainly your story, in and of itself, is pretty fascinating. So I would say, anybody that's watching, you don't know what BBL Drizzy is, look it up, and I guarantee you, you will go down a rabbit hole. Uh, Sunny Digital. So tell us a little bit about your background and some of the awesome things you've been doing.
Well, I'm a music producer. I just be here all day, making beats and just trying to be creative and trying to find like the next like innovation in music though. But I'm just a music producer in my eyes, music producer, artist, just being creative. I've been making music. You see the plaques, some of them when I'm on the floor, right? I mean on the ground right there. But I'm just a producer, bro.
Very cool. Thank you. So let's start with Andrew. Andrew, if you don't mind, could you walk us through? I mean, it would seem to the layperson that starting a tech company that is built on AI would be a pretty laborious, intensive process. If you could maybe could you walk us through those steps of what it took for you and your founders to actually build this platform that does magical things, as you mentioned earlier?
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, I'll speak about this pretty generally, and then I can go into some sort of specifics that are useful. I mean, we have an incredibly talented founding team of technologists, really world-leading AI folks who had a deep expertise in this area. And they had a technical understanding that allowed us to build a product and to build an AI model that really was state of the art and exceeded state of the art at that time. I think, for business students and students more generally, I mean, there are a couple of things that come together. One is a really clear idea of what you want to build, an enormous passion for it, because let me tell you, when you are getting into any space, you have to allow it has to be in your soul. You have to be willing to really give your all to it. And particularly for something like music, where it's such a emotionally resonant thing, and also because AI music is such a new technology and so disruptive, you have to truly love it, and you have to have enormous respect for artists and art, and that's something I think that's been really crucial for us from the beginning. But from a tactical perspective, the team had deep expertise in from on a technical perspective. You went out, you go and you raise money, you convince people of the vision. You say, look, we think that this is going to be a really powerful tool for artists, and it's going to unlock a whole host of things. And you develop a vision for what your technology can do in the future. And you have to spend a lot of time convincing people of that. When things, it's always easier in hindsight to look back and say, oh, AI music this, AI music that. Well, at the time, there wasn't anything in the market. I'd never met King Melonius before. I'd never met Sunny Digital before. These folks who have the ability to use it in new ways, it was yet undiscovered. So you have to try to put your hat on a little bit and think ahead. But so, we did that. The other founders built the technology, which is really extraordinary. We raised some money. We hired a small initial team, and then we tried to get to market as fast as possible. And speed and quality have been sort of guiding principles, I think, in terms of our product development, getting things to users quickly that bring utility, but also keeping us at the really top end, because as we've got on here, we've got some of the world's greatest creators that we have the pleasure to work with, and we know that they demand the highest quality. So we really focus on that, and we kind of stake our reputation on that. And then, as I said, also being as artist forward as possible. Those have been the guiding lights, and that's how we brought it to fruition. And it's been a crazy journey. It's challenging for sure. The last thing I'll say is that if you're going to go into startups in any space, you have to be willing to embrace uncertainty. You're not going to have the clarity of this is happening, then this happens, and so is going to tell you what to do. You're going to be writing the playbook most of the time, which is exciting, but also challenging. So, for the students out there who are thinking that they want to go into entrepreneurship, couldn't recommend it more. But you also need to be aware that it's going to take a lot of improvisation and sort of creative skill, which is fun and challenging.
And I mean, this is, I guess it goes without saying, this is certainly an evolving um, side of technology. It was your original user base, considering it's, text to music, folks that weren't necessarily artists, folks that maybe just wanted to play in that space versus someone that is trained and knows music theory?
Yeah, interesting question. To be honest, I mean, we wanted to build something that was useful both to sophisticated musicians, but also to people who are less sophisticated. I think one of the exciting things about this kind of technology is that it allows new musicians, people who like music but maybe aren't professional musicians, to express themselves in music, but it also lets people who are really talented to go even further. So as I said from the beginning, we wanted to cater to both of those audiences, and it's something that we still try to do in the product today.
So if you don't mind, let's talk a little bit about that. Whether you want to answer this or Ian as the person that oversees product. What are some of those lesser known features? I think, anyone, and I shared this earlier, just going on the platform for the first time a little while back, entering a prompt and it outputting some pretty phenomenal results that were quite impressive. What are that's pretty straightforward, not necessarily that it isn't amazing and magical, but it's straightforward. What are some of the other lesser known features that benefit a more professional or refined creator?
Yeah. So I think in terms of the core experience, so as you mentioned, the initial point of creation, right? Right now it's very text-based. So within that, there's definitely a set of advanced controls where you can interact with the model in deeper ways and kind of guide it in certain directions to what you want to create. I think beyond that, we have Remix, which is really interesting. You can take what you have on Udio, you can remix creation you've started on the platform, but you can also upload your own ideas, which is really cool. So if you are a producer or songwriter and you're working on something and you're just curious to see how it might sound in a different style or have another influence on that track, you'll get a new result. The same way you can kind of take your own ideas, you can extend ideas. So let's say you have a little loop, you're like, it's a verse, I'm not sure really where to go with this. Well, work with Udio, upload it, and that's your co-producer, which is really cool. We've got some upcoming features which are really interesting. So you'll be able to, again, take an idea, upload and reference that style, right? So if you hear a certain drum sound, a certain sonic quality, or maybe there's a melodic influence you want to, put into a new generation, that's going to be possible very soon. As well as, let's say, you mentioned in the beginning, like you put in a prompt, you find a really great result, and you want to recreate that, right? You'll be able to do that as well. So those are some new things as well as existing that I think are really exciting and fun to use.
And then, if I'm not mistaken, you're also able to download individual stems of the track that you create.
Exactly. That's a great call out. And that's where it gets interesting going back and forth between your current workflow and in your DAW, whether it's Logic or Ableton, and you're pulling out those little ideas, kind of in the way that you would sample something from a record. Like if you heard a little phrase, you'll be able to stem it out get just that track around the instrumental or the vocal, and now you can bring it into your workflow. Rinse and repeat, and you've got a really interesting, way to build a song.
And then I also understand that you have your platform has the ability to output video lyrics. Is that meant for like YouTube or social media?
Correct. It's a great way to share your ideas, particularly on social platforms and, wherever you want to share a video related piece of content.
Very cool.
Only thing I'll add to that, just real quick, Israel, is
Yeah.
that one thing we found, and I mean, Melonius can speak to this much better than I can, but if you write great lyrics, the model responds really well. So like the people often think that, oh, the prompt where I say I want hip hop, I want trap, I want whatever is the most important thing. And to be honest, maybe it's 50-50, 60-40, it's hard to really know, but the lyrics, the quality of the lyrics, the structure of the lyrics are as informative and sometimes more informative to the nature and quality of the songs that you generate. I just mentioned that because you were talking about the lyrics videos, which are fun because you can watch the lyrics play along with your works. But I would say for the songwriters out there in particular, but just every user, spend the time working on the lyrics. We can auto-generate lyrics for you, which is very useful as a starting point, but you can obviously hop in there and edit them yourselves, or you can write it all from scratch. So I think it's a really important thing that most people don't actually realize when they're using the platform for the first time.
And it does give you the opportunity to rework your creation with additional features. It seems like there's actually a whole slew of features that you could apply to even more customize your platform, your final product.
I mean, there's like the super advanced features of seeds and stuff like that, which, Ian's made that we have good YouTube on this. Ian's got a little bit of following on YouTube. So I'll leave it to that. But like the point is that I think what's interesting is that the ways that you control it and the dials that you turn are very different from traditional digital audio workstation or traditional audio editing flows, but they have advantages and they have disadvantages, and so you should really think about it as like as learning a new tool with its own quirks. And our goal over time is to make it as straightforward as possible. And I think right now there's actually a significant amount of power. And a lot of that power, once you understand the basic primitives, is just through experimentation, like creating all great art and stuff. You just got to get in there and get your hands dirty. So I'd encourage people to do that. And we know from our user base, who tends to skew a little bit more towards the sophisticated users, we have a lot of professionals, but we also have a lot of advanced amateurs. They enjoy using it just from an experimentation perspective as well.
Nice. Willonius, you have a pretty diverse and unique background. Probably creator extraordinaire might be a good way to describe some of the things that you've done. I mean, you mentioned Clubhouse. If anybody remembers that, that was a pretty much a cultural phenomenon during COVID, and you were able to use that to create an audio drama, comedic audio drama. Is that right?
Yeah, I made like 18 of them during that, I guess, 2-year period I was on Clubhouse.
Very cool. So from comedy to using this new social media audio based platform to create a different type, or maybe reinvent a different type of art. I understand you're a filmmaker. And then, of course, the phenomenon of BBL. Tell us, for those folks that are uninitiated, tell us a little bit about the BBL Drizzy come up.
Yeah, like last year I was just going so hard with AI. I was just so fascinated by these tools. So every week I would just try to drop AI trailer. I was really focused on AI film. Music was a big factor in like the AI productions I would do. And the weekend that I made BBL Drizzy, I was working on I was in the midst of doing a 48-hour film festival, and I was seeing online everybody was like talking about Udio. Was like, hey, there's this new AI tool that you can do music with. And I was like, all right, I just took a break and I saw BBL Drizzy was trending because Drake and Rick Ross were beefing. And Rick Ross said Drake had fake abs, so he started calling BBL Drizzy. So that was like trending on Twitter. And I was like, all right, well, let me test this tool out, because I've seen everybody talk about it. It was a lot of people on the Twitter community were mentioning Udio. So I literally just was like, all right, let me see what happens. And I made the song and, thought it was funny. I didn't think much of it because I was just like, I didn't have like crazy engagement on Twitter and posted it and it just took off. I actually did like two versions of it. Well, I made multiple versions of it like eventually, but the first version I did make got like I think like a million hits or whatever, and then the second version, which went mega viral, is the one that kind of changed my career.
It's pretty amazing. So when you were creating the original song, how long did it take you to do that on Udio?
Man, it was really fast. It was, the whole process maybe was like 30 minutes, to be honest. I wrote the song really fast. The lyrics are just flowing. And then I got really lucky with the prompts. I mean, the output you get from Udio is always pretty high quality. It's really hard to make a bad song for the most part. But yeah, that for that particular day, everything just flowed and I was just able to kind of just knock it out of the park really fast.
Right. Without the context that we now know with Rick Ross and Drake, it sounds like a classic R&B record, and I don't know if I should admit it or not, but I have. It's been stuck in my mind since I first heard it. And you're saying that Twitter is what you initially put it on that helped fuel that traction?
Yeah, yeah. I really just because I went to Twitter just to see, that's where I get a lot of my news from. So I just went to Twitter to see what was happening in the world. And yeah, BBL Jersey was just trending. And I was like, all right, let me just make a song. It's something I've always done. Like I got a bunch of songs on my SoundCloud from like years ago, and I would just, creatively, I'm always just trying to do things. So and I love making comedy music. So I just saw it trending and I was like, all right, let me make something, and it took off. And I think part of it was because like that Kendrick Drake beat was so polarizing at the time,
Right.
and but it just started to snowball, and then it went viral for like a day or two, and then Metro Boomin took it maybe like a couple weeks later and made it go like super viral.
Is that something that you were aware of in advance, or you were caught off guard when you found out that Metro Boomin, one of the
Yeah,
most popular producers, put a record out sampling your BBL Drizzy creation?
Yeah, I caught it the same time as everybody else. I wasn't even to be honest, I wasn't even thinking about the song anymore, when it went viral. Like I was making songs every time Drake and Kendrick would drop a track, I would drop like my own version or a comedic response or whatever. So when BBL Jersey dropped was like May 5th or whatever, the second time like it was like out of my mind and then, he just took it to a whole nother level.
And tell me a little bit, if you don't mind, tell me a little bit about your trajectory after that double viral hit that you had.
Yeah, man, it was crazy. It was just like, a lot of people in Hollywood. I was in LA at the time, so a lot of people would hit me up, got to work with Will I Am for like 4 or 5 hours in the studio. Um I got featured in Time Magazine as one of the top 100 most influential in AI for 2024. Um geez, well, got to work with Will Smith, got to work with Kendrick. Uh Man, it was a lot. Just, a lot of things happening. And I'm very grateful, and just like a lot of different artists, would hit me up, wanting to either sit down and kind of understand more about AI music or just AI in general. And then just more opportunities on the film side. So it was a pretty wild. I mean, things are still happening, but it was that I like to say AI kind of just changed my life, and it's been an interesting ride.
That's an amazing story, man.
Hmm.
Congratulations. Very cool.
Thank you.
Pushing the limits, all those different mediums that in some ways you kind of were an innovator, which is pretty amazing.
Right.
Sunny Digital, so you are a seasoned professional. I was reading that you started out, if I'm not mistaken, in your brother's using your brother's old MPC, and then moved over to Fruity Loops, and then using AI. Tell me a little bit about that. How are you using AI as a traditional producer? What are you using it for, and how are you integrating it into your process?
Well, for me, it's pretty simple. I mean, it all go hand in hand with my name too, Sunny Digital. I just kind of use it. It just kind of everything kind of linking up and just making sense. But as far as with I use it to the maximal potential. I feel like I do whatever's available, whatever knob I can turn on there, whatever I can type in, the amount of words I can type in. I just kind of push it to the max because I always want to see what anything can do, even down to the hardware that I work with, you know. But as far as like with the AI and stuff, like on Udio, from the first time I used it all the way up until now, it's been so many features added onto it and stuff. So I never really get to fully indulge into things because it'll be a new feature I'll be excited about trying out or whatever. But I don't know. I don't really limit like everything that I do. I just go in there and be like, let me just try it, you know, like, and if it can't be done, you know, then it just can't be done. But if it can, it can. But I'll go use it to make a sample, get some vocals. It's just I'm not gonna lie, what you asking is a very broad question considering the amount of things that I can just go in there and go do as a producer though. You know, like it's not specific that I go do, but like I said, just on some creative, like just trying to get some ideas off or trying to start an idea, like I just go there and just start typing things in, just typing how I feel, or just typing words that come to the top of my head, and just see what it spit out to me. You know?
Very cool.
Yes.
In some ways, it's kind of like the Swiss Army knife of music creation. No.
Mhm. So it's like I don't know. It's kind of like with that. I didn't seen people use it so many different ways. You know, to where it's kind of like it's no one specific way of using it. You know, so I kind of going with that same vibe too. Just on some, I'm just unorthodox with it. I'm just try something out. Just like I said, just try typing anything. Only thing we stray away from is actually typing in like a specific thing though. You know, I
Right.
kind of like it also kind of like it make you describe things. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like I can't go in there and be like I want the color to be blue, and then you know I kind of got to describe like what blue like look like to me or what it feel like to me to kind of make it like spit out something intricate though. But you know, if I keep it surface level, it's gonna give me surface level things. But if I like start digging in deep, turning knobs, just trying things out, then it'll start giving me like interesting things to work with. You know.
Indeed. With King Wallonius, it's pretty obvious his um, biggest takeaway. What would you say was your biggest surprise from using Udio in your music creation?
Me personally,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. My favorite feature on Udio is the fact that you can actually type in your lyrics and stuff though, and you can type them in and it'll say exactly what the lyrics say. You know what I'm saying? So you got a lot of control at that point though too, and you know like with that being said too, it's kind of like it kind of lean over into that factor like it is still AI, but to a certain degree, you still got to be creative to get some good output from it though. You can't just go in there and be like I'm just gonna get great results every time though. Like it's just like any other job or anything you do. The more work that you put into it, the more you're gonna get out of it. You know, the more knobs that you turn, the more things that you try out, the more you're gonna get out of it though. But like I said, my most favorite thing because I feel like it just shows creativity is that you can and it shows your control though is that you can write the lyrics and tell it what to say.
Interesting. So I do. I'm speaking to creators. I do have to ask either Andrew or Ian if maybe you could talk a little bit about ownership. So somebody creates something using your platform. Are they the owner of the music?
Yep. Yeah. So the terms of service are pretty clear on this, that the creator of the song has ownership of it and can do what they want with it subsequently. Like in in King Melodious' case, you made the song. I know, Sonny, you like to sample outputs that you get. You have the full flexibility to do that.
Got it. And I know that King Wilonius and Sunny Digital both referenced writing lyrics, so that's their creation.
Yep.
They're entering it into the platform with obviously descriptors, tags. Um, Now, my question, kind of second to that, is copyright ownership. More recently, we learned that the a simple text prompt is not necessarily, whatever the output is not necessarily going to be something you could copyright in and of itself. Anything you want to share in relation to the idea of ownership and the copyright conversation right now?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, is it the copyrightability of AI generated outputs is this open question right now? And I think Israel, you referenced there's a recent report from the Copyright Office on this. I think that the sort of prevailing wisdom that is emerging is that if you can demonstrate that there's a significant amount of human intervention in it, then the work should enjoy copyright, or at least in part. So, if you're writing the lyrics, if you're spending a lot of time workshopping it, going back and forth, that is a process which absolutely involves an enormous amount of human authorship and human creativity. And the AI becomes a tool that just sort of reflects that.
Indeed.
I don't have any sort of particular insight on this. It's something that sort of societally we're all working out, but we certainly think that in cases where there's a lot of human input, which our users certainly do, that it should enjoy copyright on the other side. If yeah.
Indeed. And I would imagine, and I don't want to speak for you, so I'll speak from my perspective. You might, uh, I guess I'll ask, should the creator of somebody using the platform be concerned with possibly getting a copyright strike if they were to upload something to a platform and it was identified as being too similar to something that is already, that somebody else owns?
Yeah, I mean, interesting. I don't think that I have any sort of particular insight on that. Like, as if you're a creator of any type of music, you want to do the appropriate clearances that are necessary. And I think that this is another form of that, effectively.
Right. And I know there's some things that we can't speak about. It's pretty well known in the music industry that there's some things happening right now that we can't delve too much into. So I'll move on from copyright and ask a little bit about what's next. So we have Ian, obviously, who oversees product, and obviously you as the CEO. Where do you see it going next? I mean, are you looking at maybe applying other forms of creation using the platform? Are there other use cases maybe that you've come across that you weren't really thinking about when you initially developed the platform? What's next?
Yeah, I mean, as we develop the product, like we want to just build a more enriching experience. So whether it's giving you more control or just making it more intuitive, let's say beyond a text input, you want to interact with the model in different ways. But I think what's really exciting is, Sunny mentioned like I type in the color blue, right? I'm not necessarily gonna get a song, but what if you uploaded an image? What if you did draw a picture, right? Like it's a white space. There's so many ways now with AI that you can actually create the music and influence the output, right? You're basically taking an idea, you're taking something from your imagination and you're translating that to what the, piece of sound could be that is music. So it's exciting. Like we're really exploring bridging the gap between where we are today and then finding new ways to create that haven't been done yet. So
Yeah, the only thing I was gonna say is that the whole like text to music paradigm is only one of the ways to start. Audio to audio is another way to start. Here's an image to audio. There's a lot of different ways that people can put information in directing what they want to get out of it. And then in terms of the controllability, I mean, I think that we have a lot of exciting stuff planned around the way that you interact with it from a UX perspective. Like, right now it doesn't look very much like other kind of editors that you use for music. And part of that's by design and part of that's not by design. And I think that over the course of the next couple months, we're going to be bringing out a lot of features that make it easier to leverage the AI capabilities in the context of more common editing workflows. I think that we're really committed to that because we know that our serious, users, whether or not they're pros or amateurs or just starting, they get the most enjoyment out of it when they feel that they have their own personal thumbprint and sort of stamp on it. So the more instruments you could say we give them to achieve that, we think that we'll have more happy users. So that's what we're focusing on.
Have you seen case uses, one that would seem obvious, maybe not, would be somebody working on a score for a video, a short film or something like that, or maybe a feature-length film, and being used by a music supervisor. Is that something you think, have you seen that? Is that on the horizon, you think?
Yes, I can't remember what it was. It might have been the Berlin AI Film Festival or one of the sort of leading AI film festivals. The winning submission, the music had been generated on Udio. It was a 10 or 12-minute video, if I remember correctly. It was sort of interestingly a combination of almost quasi sound effects and music scoring in the background, but that was generated on Udio. So absolutely, yeah, for sure.
Very cool. I know thank you. We have some viewer questions, so I'm going to go ahead and pose some of those. One question was around how do you differentiate yourself from some of the other platforms? And I won't mention other company names, but I think people that are following know. How are you different? How is Udio different from other AI music platforms?
For sure. So I think there's a couple things. There's sort of like philosophical approach and then also like product approach. I think philosophically, working alongside musicians, working alongside the industry, having partnerships with the world's greatest creators and up and coming creators is like part of our DNA. That is the thing that we think is absolutely elemental. And we are like thrilled to partner with everybody across the industry, as I said, from artists to rights holders, whatever it happens to be. That's kind of like elemental as to what we're up to from a philosophical perspective. That informs our product, which is we know that super high quality of outputs, both in a musical sense, in a fidelity sense, in the ability to do a lot, to have enormous amounts of control. I mean, one of the things that our users really like about Udio is that they can get amazingly wide genres off of here. You can pull a little bit from R&B, you can pull from reggaeton, and you can pull from hip hop, and you can pull from choral music, and there's this enormous amount of range. So I think that our commitment to the sort of artist community means that we're incredibly committed to quality. And as you'll see over the next couple of months, in particular with the sort of product stuff that we have coming out, we're translating that focus in quality into a focus on product usability, as I was mentioning before. The increased control, increased quality, these things are all really, really top of mind. And I think that, the combination of those two things is what differentiates us, and it gives us a very clear identity and informs how we interact in how we build product and how we work with people, et cetera, et cetera. And, we're incredibly, incredibly proud of the fact that, Melonius and Sunny are friends and partners in all of this because and we really see it as our mission to make sure that other incredibly talented people like them have this as a way to be springboards to their careers, as ways to advance it. So that's how we think about it, and we think that focus is that's what our company's about, and we let that influence everything we do.
Nice. So we have another question. It says, I create with emotion and a storytelling vibe. How will AI understand the direction I'm taking my project to? I don't know if maybe one of the creators want to chime in on that, or one of the Udio folks.
Let's hear from the creators.
I feel like the creators need to speak.
I'm about to say King. I think King will. I think he can speak on it more because he's actually put more out though, and he was using it like as far as putting more out though. So I think he can speak on it. I just use it on some experimental stuff like behind. It's just I like to push the boundaries on it and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, if you are a storyteller and you create with emotion, I think the best thing you can do is just start diving into the tool. Like the more you use it, Sony kind of mentioned this as well. Like the more you use it, the more you understand the platform, you understand how like what prompts actually work for you, like how the advanced controls, how you can customize everything. And Andrew made a good point as well earlier, just like the way you structure your songs makes a big difference. So the type of lyrics that you write, I study songs, like I just go back and like if I'm writing a particular genre, like I look at a lot of different a lot of different lyrics. I go to Genius or whatever website to look at the lyrics and see how they actually like structure the songs. I look at the different parameters that you want to put in there. Like Udio has a lot of different parameters from um, you know, uh, putting the verses. There's the parentheses, which can influence the output a lot. As far as like the different background vocals. But yeah, the honestly the best advice I can really give is just start playing around with the tool. And then they have like a long list of users that upload music, so you can kind of like look at some of the songs that are already like trending on Udio and seeing uh how the lyrics that they put in versus like the output, and but everybody's process is going to be different. So I can tell you exactly how the type of prompts I use and my process and your process will be probably completely different. Like you can do exactly what I do and you will get maybe a whole completely different output. So I would recommend just like uh signing up for Udemy if you don't have an account, and then just start experimenting.
That makes sense. There's actually another question for you, Willonius, and I don't know. I would imagine maybe you can't answer that the first part of this question. If King can share more about BBL Drizzy, and curious to see if creatives can profit from AI generated work. So the first question, it changed a little, had to do with how much you made. I don't think we could really get into that. I don't want to answer for you, but maybe talk about how do you make a profit? How do you make money from using something that is AI generated? I would imagine in very similar fashion to almost anything that you're putting out there. But feel free to answer that.
Yeah, I mean, just I think the traditional ways that people make money in music, uploading your music to these DSPs and YouTube. I've been touring as much, but I mean, I do get because I put out so much music, I get comedy clubs hit me up, I get speaking engagements. So I think a lot of traditional ways that you make money doing music, you can do that now with these AI tools. It's just now I feel like you're more empowered because you're able to put out more work. You can get a lot more creative with the type of work that you put out. And you can probably form new relationships. Like I have so many new relationships in the music industry now because of what I'm able to do with AI music. And I'm able to just really up my output. So the best thing to probably do is read that all about the music business book. And but a lot of the ways that you traditionally made money in music, you can still do that now with these new tools.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Another question here is, and this might go to the Udio folks. How accurate is Udio AI at creating music that matches the description or theme that I provide?
We try to make it as accurate as possible. but there's always drift. I mean, this is in probably the category of what we would call controllability or steerability. Um, there's always a sort of effort on the modeling team to make it more controllable. At the same time, part of the fun and weirdness and coolness of AI generated music is that you get something not entirely expected, right? It's that you and I think Sunny and Wellness can probably speak to this as well, is that sometimes people, one use case is, hey, I've got something really particular in mind. I want to go and I want to try to realize it. So you do a very detailed prompt and you get something out and you try to get it exactly where you want. That's great and everything. A lot of other times you're like, was it Sunny who you said about the color blue or something? It's like, I've got a feeling. I don't know exactly where I want to go with it. And in that case, you're using it more as a sort of idea generator rather than a fully formed musical artifact generator. So long answer is we try to make it as controllable as possible, but some ability to get interesting random new stuff is a little bit of the magic as well.
Nice. And there's another question that maybe you could answer as well, or Ian. It's from a Full Sail student, and they're learning traditional music reading and writing, and they want to know, will AI replace how we learn music from the roots?
I give my thoughts on this, and you can give yours as well. I mean, for me, absolutely not. I mean, I think that understanding fundamentals of music make you a better musician in every different way. It makes you a better judge of music. It makes music more enjoyable. It gives you even more degrees of freedom. Like it's sort of like saying, look, I don't think many people are like, oh, I've got a new tool available to me, so I'm going to forget every other tool I've used. It's no, I've got another tool in my toolbox. Let me add to it. I play the piano, I play, the flute, I play the oboe, whatever. That's great. And now I've got another instrument that I can add to my sort of lexicon. So I think it should be totally viewed as something on top of everything else. The folks who understand music well will do better with AI. At the same time, I think what's really nice is that AI does provide an intro into it for the songwriter, for the comedian, like you, Willonis. Like you still benefit from having musical talent and training, but it allows you to say, hey, I want to get a song going. I don't really know where I want to go. I want to get an idea quickly. And you can get into it. And then you can workshop it subsequently, or you can leave it how it is. So I think it kind of works both ways, but it's definitely not, it's definitely should be seen as on top of it, and facilitating, in my view.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with some of that. I think like from a learning perspective, it can certainly help. Like with anything you learn and kind of how AI in general is going to affect how we learn it, the learning process for anything. I think, music is the universal language, right? So like at the end of the day, you can be amazing and just write by ear and just hear things, right? And have that innate ability. But the more you know about the language, the more you can understand and express yourself and have that control. So it goes hand in hand, right? It's just, as Andrew said, it's a tool to help with efficiency and kind of get that control to get the output that you're looking for. So the more you know, the better. If that's the simplest answer I can give.
Thank you. Makes sense. So the next question, actually, and we're running out of time, so I want to go ahead and maybe condense them. It's someone saying they've been writing, uh, producing for 14 years, and going back to college for a second round to solidify education and degree. And they want to know if you might be able to provide some advice. If I could maybe add to that, so that way we could get a response, hopefully from everyone here, and that is, what advice do you have for aspiring creatives and also maybe for tech creators?
Creators first, I think.
Yeah, let's do it.
Actually be creative, don't put a ceiling on your creativity. Don't be scared of the AI. I don't think AI gonna take over music or anything like that. It's just like a tool. Like it's just a tool, man. Everything a tool, and you just bring it all together. If anything, you is just the main vessel of everything. You bring everything together, and you got to do it. You still got to do everything still. You know what I'm saying? It's just your job to bring everything together, you know? So, my advice too is just don't rely too much on like AI to do everything, especially if you create music. Just look at it as like a tool, you know, not a crutch, you know, but just stay creative, bro. You know, that's how you stay ahead of the curve. Just stay creative. Don't copy nobody. You can get influence from people, you know what I'm saying, but just don't copy. And like I said, just use everything like tools and just know that you the person that's gotta output all this stuff at the end of the day, you know. So
Thank you.
Yeah,
Wellonius?
yeah, I would definitely echo that, man. Just like, start today, just diving in. The only way you can be creative is by creating. So you want to just constantly be doing things. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. I see a lot of times when people mess around with like these AI tools or any tool in general, they're like, oh, can I do this and can I do that? And I'm like, I don't know, just try it. So um, you know, I think one of the cool things about working with a lot of these AI tools, you have these like what they call happy accidents. So you might mean to do one thing and then, you get a whole different thing, and it's like, wow, this is amazing. I wouldn't have known to do that. Iterate a lot, that's been one of my things that I found like one of the successful things that I found messing around with like Udio is just like, you might generate 10 songs and you're like, all right, well, I think I'm done. You'd be like, no, let me generate just one more. And that last one be the one. So it's just and then you can't be dishonest to the craft. So you still have to take the time and like learn the craft, whatever craft you decide to go into, putting that 10,000 hours, like really trying to be disciplined and learning from the people that came before you is like super important. So the more you can learn about, your particular craft, I'm doing a lot of yacht rock right now. So I'm listening to yacht rock music and I'm trying to learn more about the artists and like the way the songs are written and like the influences and all these things. So like you got to just be true to that craft and put in the time to make sure you can put out something dope. So yeah, so I'm about just dive in and stay consistent and just keep working.
I like that. And if you don't mind, Ian, I mean, you've been immersed in technology for quite some time. You've been at some of the companies that we talk about all the time, and in some cases, spend a lot of time with. What's your advice for an aspiring uh, tech creator going into the industry now?
Just hit it on the head, like experimentation, right? Like if you're into tech, you obviously have many tools at your disposal, so use them all, right? Like take something, throw it in there, and use it in a way that it's not supposed to be used, right? Like we provide workflows and UX to allow you to understand the process, make your own, right? Like do something crazy. If that's the simple. So if you're a technologist, use all the tools at your disposal and explore and experiment. That's all I can say.
Wonderful. Thank you. Andrew?
Whew, interesting. It's hard to go after these good answers. I mean, I think that if you want to get into, so I think there are two things. One is that humans have a I think everybody has a creative impulse, and people often feel the most sort of satisfied in whatever they're doing when they're expressing that impulse. And that impulse, by the way, can take a lot of different forms. It can be musicians making music, it could be people writing poetry, it could be creating technology, it could be doing whatever that is. And I think that I certainly feel the most satisfied in whatever I'm doing when I'm learning new things, when I feel like I'm improving, and when I'm expressing something that's a part of myself. I realize this is a kind of broad answer, but I don't think that what we're talking about here has anything to do in particular with music or with technology. It has to do with just about expression. And I think that, finding that area where you can really express yourself in whatever form that takes is the thing that helps people self-actualize. I certainly feel like I'm my best self when I'm expressing some deep element of who I am. And I think that what we've seen is that the greatest artists in the world, the greatest creators in the world, the greatest inventors in the world are the ones who are in touch with that and spend as much of their time focused on that thing. And the last thing I'll note is that it's easy to get distracted. It's easy to get distracted by other stuff that isn't that, to be focused on the small picture. But at the end of the day, in order to kind of realize that full potential, I think you need to be hyper focused on that, and that's not easy. Sometimes that means making sacrifices and taking risks. But ultimately, I think that it leads to a higher level of sort of satisfaction and contribution that you can make to society.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think that's wonderful advice. And I also want to I want to thank you all for taking time to share your stories, for talking about this amazing platform, and also about what's possible, not only with Udio but also with some of the other technologies that are available. So I just want to thank the Udio team. I also want to thank King and Sunny for taking time. I want to wish you all continued success in everything you do. And just once again, sincere thank you for your time.
Thank you for having us, and all best to the listeners. We wish you much luck in this exciting future.
Thank you. I appreciate y'all having us. Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure. All right. So that's a wrap for this episode of Taking Flight. Thank you. We'll see you next time.